Hi there and welcome to the Money Program, a show about dollars and cents. I'm your host, Kate Sullivan. We always are talking about the best ways to get you in a financially sound situation. In the past, we've talked about mortgages and how to handle debt. Well, once you've got that debt under control and you've figured out that maybe you can swing a mortgage, you're going to want to find an agent and start having a great way to navigate yourself through the real estate market. So today we'll be discussing the real estate market and how to find an agent and what you should be looking for and why you need one. Today with us, we have Danielle O'Brien from Parkway Real Estate in West Roxbury. Danielle, tell us a little bit about yourself. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I was licensed as an agent in 2008. I obtained my broker's license in 2013, and about 18 months ago I opened Parkway Real Estate and have been operating there as the agent, broker, owner.
Great. So you always hear that the spring is an excellent time to buy. What is it about the spring?
So in regards to timing, spring is a great time to put your house on the market. The snow is starting to melt, the flowers are starting to bloom, and children are getting out of school. And for many people, that's really important that they're timing the sale of their house with the purchase of a new home to start their children in a new school year.
Yeah, give them a little time to transition over the summer, maybe meet some kids in their new neighborhood.
Exactly.
What about the Boston market? You always hear how exciting it is to buy in Boston. What is it about the Boston market that just makes it so exciting and so unique?
So Boston's fantastic. We are obviously a world-class city. We are close to the mountains for skiing, and in the summer you're close by beaches, and I think we are just well positioned geographically, and people enjoy living here because of that. We have great transportation systems, and I think that contributes to the lack of inventory here that we've been seeing.
People are eager to get in. And it almost seems as if there's something for everybody. Small entry condo to some large, homes and some really historic homes as well in the area. So to start off, let's talk a little bit about the different types of agents, because I think agent is the term that is thrown around the most. You have a real estate agent. What are some of the different designations? Because I know you mentioned you're a broker owner. What are some of those designations and what exactly do those mean?
So there's different levels of licensure. You can be licensed as an agent, which means you took some coursework, you passed an exam, and you have to work under a broker when you're an agent. To be a broker, you take additional coursework, you pass an additional exam, but you have to have worked under a broker for at least 3 years in order to obtain that licensure. Being a broker owner isn't specifically a license, it just shows that you operate a company. You can also be an associate broker, which means you are a broker, but you work for another broker.
You work for someone. Now, you hear the term realtor also thrown along quite a bit. So, but from our conversation, it's not everybody is a realtor in a sense.
Exactly. So, realtor is really a membership. It's not quite a designation. It's that you've applied to become a member of the National Association of Realtors. The real difference there is that they adhere to a strict code of ethics that sometimes goes beyond state law. They're morally and ethically contributing to their license by doing that. There are additional designations and certifications beyond that, such as maybe an SFR, which was popular when the market experienced their low turn. An SFR is a short sale and foreclosure resource, and it means someone took additional coursework to understand the short sale and foreclosure process. Another popular one is an ABR, which is an accredited buyer representative. And an ABR is someone who, again, took additional coursework. They took an exam, and now they are certified as an ABR. And the last popular one I would say is a GRI, which is a series of 6 courses. They're 2 days each. You have to finish all of those courses within a couple years, and then you have your GRI, which is Graduate Realtor Institute.
So again, another maybe a higher level of education, a higher maybe level of standards. So does every state have their own qualifications in a sense? You mentioned, the agents, now they're qualified in Massachusetts, correct? They're not necessarily qualified in another state.
Exactly. I'm licensed in Massachusetts. If I wanted to sell in New Hampshire, I would have to take the exams there.
Great. Why should people have an agent?
Well, the most important thing I think is that you have someone looking out for your best interests. So as a buyer agent, my job is to be obedient and ensure that I'm looking out for the buyer's best interests when it comes to purchasing a home, making sure their financing is in order and that their offers are going to be strong. When it comes to selling a home, making sure that I'm letting qualified buyers into their home and again, representing their best interests is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, so making sure that, I guess, if they're buying, they're getting the best house for them at the best price and,
Exactly.
really. We had a conversation about, especially for selling, that, why is it important to have a buyer, have an agent or a broker when you're selling? It seems to be that there's places all over the internet where you could do it on your own, but you suggest that is not the right way to go.
Yeah, I mean, as agents, we have access to a lot of tools that the normal seller wouldn't have access to, such as MLS. 87% of buyers are using an agent, so we have a network of people that we know are looking for a home we may be putting on. And there is a lot of paperwork and legal things that we have to make sure we adhere to that, if someone's only sold a home or two in their life, they may not know things that have changed since the last time they sold, whereas, we're buying and selling hundreds of houses and we know the process and we can just work more efficiently.
And I know from my personal experience, when I was buying my home, there was just always paperwork, always something that had to be done. So I would assume that in a way you're a project manager. You're a project manager for that particular process. And I would imagine that trying to manage your home, kids if you have them, work, that this is just not what, not for everybody to undertake.
Yeah, a lot of for sale by owner people do end up listing their home after a certain time period. They don't really understand the concept of market timing, the best time to enter a house, the best price to enter it for. A lot of times they don't put it on for a good price. And that is kind of the demise of many of these properties. And yeah, understanding that there is a timeline, there is a process to it, and not properly negotiating. A seller that's doing it on their own has to be prepared to speak with the buyer, maybe the buyer's agent, if they're letting an agent come in on the buyer's side, attorneys, lenders, and that can be a lot for some people.
Yeah, I would have assumed so. When people are, interested in maybe starting the process of looking for a home, how do they find an agent? Like, what should they be looking for? How do they, what's the best way to find one?
So I always suggest to people that in the beginning process, you need to kind of build your team. So your team includes maybe your lender for your pre-approval, your agent, your buyer agent, an attorney, a home inspector, and knowing who you're going to go to for these people. Now, how do you find these people? Ask your friends and family who they used and if they would recommend that person. I think that's a really important way to find someone. And once you meet with those people, maybe ask them a few questions, interview them. Have they bought and sold in this area? Do they feel like they have a good network in that area? And what's some success stories that they've had? Do they have referrals or references that you could speak with? And make sure that's a good fit for you. You're going to be talking to these people day in and day out. You really need to make sure that not only are they qualified in regards to getting you through the process, but is it going to be a pleasant experience?
Yes. Now you mentioned like a little bit being familiar with the area. How important is that? Like if you're looking to buy in Boston, do you want someone who, obviously you would want someone that is based in Boston and knows the Boston market?
Yeah, I mean, as agents, we obviously can run numbers for any area, but there is kind of that aspect of understanding an area, understanding where people go out to dinner and, which park do they take their kids to and things like that. And I think that does come with buying and selling a lot in one particular area, and also having a really good understanding of price, because if I'm in one particular area, maybe I've been in many of the homes in that area already, and I know what they're selling for, and I have a really good idea of if that home is worth the price they're asking.
Yeah, I was going to say that'd be a great, if you're going into a home with a client and you know that there's a handful of other homes that are either better off or worse off, and comparing that asking price to that. When it comes to compensation, I know there's a lot of a lot of details and legality around that. Just basic. How would an agent get paid?
Sure. So generally, when you are representing a seller, that agent has an agreement with them to pay out a certain percentage of commission. And part of that commission is then, it's not necessarily split a certain way, but a piece of that would generally go to the buyer agent for bringing a buyer into the home. Again, this isn't always the case, but that's a lot of what we're seeing right now. That's how we operate at my company. And if it's a for sale by owner situation, it becomes like a one-off situation. Maybe they're not letting buyers bring people in for commission. It would have to be worked into the price. But for the most part, buyer agency doesn't cost the buyer.
Mm-hmm. I think that's good to know, especially with Boston. It can be very expensive to buy in Boston, and you're finding still a lot of younger families trying to get in and trying to make those down payments. I guess it'd be nice to know that you're not going to have to fork out a little extra cash to find someone to find you that house. So when it comes to finding a home, so we have our agent, we know who we're going to be working with. What to you is the ideal process? Like how should this work?
So concurrently with sitting down with a buyer agent and letting them know what you're looking for in a home and your budget and maybe the areas that you want to try and look within, you want to concurrently be setting up your pre-approval with your lender. And having an ideal credit profile is really important here, and not having stuff that needs to be fixed, and it takes time to fix these kind of things. So once you have that pre-approval and you know who your agent is, you can start looking for homes. And right now, a lot of times we're sending people out to open houses. I myself might have an open house and can't attend with them on a Saturday or Sunday, but I can send them along to an open house and they just sign in with their agent's information. And if not, then we set up a one-off appointment and go and view the home. Once they find a home that they like, we're putting in an offer, and this is where the pre-approval is really important. I need that pre-approval to really have someone that's reviewed their credit profile and make sure that nothing's going to come up, so that I can then say to the seller's agent, they're a good candidate for this home. Mm-hmm. Credit-wise. That's as important as them liking the home.
Now, say if somebody necessarily didn't want to use the current bank or credit union that they belong to, should an agent, a good agent, have a network of lenders that they've used, whether it be a mortgage broker that they particularly like, or a mortgage officer in a bank or credit union? Should they have those resources?
Actually, as a buyer agent in Massachusetts, you are allowed to hand out referrals. So I can refer someone off to a lender I've used in the past that I know is efficient and can get the job done. Similarly, I can say, well, this maybe isn't the best route to go for the program you're looking at. So that is a good aspect of having your own agent. They are able to give you those names and let you know, I've worked with this person and I know they can get the job done.
Now, you mentioned some of the programs. Now, there are a lot of mortgage programs out there, and some of them are very, like the FHA and the VA. When working with somebody, if they tell you that, are you able to say, I know a VA, I know somebody that can help you with the VA? Or talking to somebody, finding out a bit about their history and saying, oh, you might qualify for this type of program, this is a route we may want to explore?
Yeah, I always give people a few options. Here's maybe 2 or 3 people I think you should give a call to. I will let them know, for the programs you're looking at, this might be the best person for you. But really, I empower them with options and let them make the decision that's best for them.
Great. Now, when you talked about going to the open houses, what are some of the things people should be looking for? You can change. We can change some things. You can't change everything. Do you recommend going to a ton of homes at first and kind of narrowing down, like, what do you like in this home? What don't you like?
So the more homes someone sees, the more they can narrow down what is really important to them. It's important when you're walking through an open house not to say, wow, I like that couch or I like that rug.
Because that's not staying.